Imagine you're lost. You're in the vast, endless fields of northern China. Your phone has no signal. The night is as dark as ink. Your only source of light is the beam of your dying flashlight. Suddenly, your light catches something. In the middle of the path, a small figure is standing. It's not a cat, and it's not a dog. It's wearing clothes. A small, worn-out jacket, as if stolen from a clothesline. You take a cautious step closer, your heart hammering against your ribs. Under the beam of your light, a furry, pointed face looks up. It's a weasel. A weasel standing on its hind legs, perfectly, like a man. And just as your brain struggles to process what you're seeing, it speaks. The voice is one you've never heard before, sharp and ancient, as if it rose from the very depths of the earth. Traveler, do I look like a man or a god? Don't be quick to answer, because every word you say next will set in motion an ancient pact, a pact that will either grant you immense wealth or condemn you to utter ruin. This ultimate test is the key to unlocking the legend of China's most mysterious animal spirit, the xian. It is not a simple god, nor is it a pure demon. In the folk belief system of northeast China, there are 5 special families. They are not deities from the heavens, nor ghosts from the underworld. Instead, they are spirits formed from the most common animals around us. They are known as the 5 great immortals, or the household guardian spirits. The fox is cunning, the serpent brings healing, the hedgehog attracts wealth, the rat is a master of information, and our subject today, the xian, or the weasel immortal, is the most common and the most emotional of them all. Think of it as a mysterious, eccentric neighbor. If you are good to it, it might grant you a fortune. But if you accidentally disturb it or speak ill of it, the consequences could be far more severe than you can imagine. To truly understand the laws of the xian, we can't just see it as a myth. We must see it as a being with its own personality, with deep loves and fierce hatreds. In its world, there are 2 unbreakable rules. It will always repay a kindness, and it will always avenge a wrong. Let's begin with the warmer of those 2 laws. At the foot of the Chengbai Mountains, there lived an old man named Li. He had no children and lived alone in a small, weathered house. For him, the few hundred pounds of corn in his granary were his only hope for surviving the winter. That autumn, Old Man Li noticed something strange. A family of weasels had moved in under his granary. Every evening, he could see the mother leading her little ones, chasing each other in the yard. The villagers all came to warn him. Old Li, that's a yellow hide, a chicken thief. Smoke it out before you lose everything. Old Man Li just puffed on his pipe, looked at the small, furry creatures, and sighed. The snow will be here soon. It's a living thing. Where would it go? Besides, I don't even own a chicken. What could it possibly steal from me? From that day on, not only did he not drive them away, he began to treat them like quiet members of his family. After every meal, he would scrape the leftover rice and soup from his pot into a broken bowl by the granary. Soon, the winter had passed. In the spring, the neighbors were astonished. While their granaries had all suffered losses from mice, every single grain of Old Man Li's corn was untouched, and the area around his granary was spotless, without a single mouse dropping to be found. Everyone then understood the weasel family was repaying the old man's kindness. But this was only the beginning. The true repayment came on the night that nearly claimed his life. It was a rare, brutal cold snap in late spring. The temperature plummeted to 20 degrees below zero. Old Man Li caught a chill that triggered an old illness, and a high fever took hold. He lay on his icy stone bed, his consciousness fading, feeling his body slowly freezing solid. Just as he thought he was going to die there, alone and silent in his old house, he felt a flicker of warmth. It wasn't a delusion. 1, 2, then 3 streams of living heat began to flow into his body, from his feet, his back, his chest, enveloping his frozen limbs. In his delirium, he felt as if he were wrapped in the world's thickest fur cloaks. The next morning, as the first ray of sunlight pierced through the window, Old Man Li slowly opened his eyes. He had survived. He looked down, and tears instantly filled his eyes. 5 or 6 weasels, large and small, were pressed tightly against his body, curled up at his feet. They had used their own meager body heat to form a wall of life and had pulled him back from the brink of death. Seeing that the old man was awake, they quietly, one by one, slipped off the bed and disappeared through the crack in the door. This story is the ultimate expression of the Weasel Immortal's law of gratitude. It doesn't ask for your worship or incense. It only values your simplest acts of kindness. The core of this law is respect. If you respect it as a living being, it will treat you as a benefactor worthy of protection. But what happens when you break that respect? You trigger its other, very different law.
Now we come to the other side of the story, a side filled with resentment, madness, and unexplainable horror. In another village, there lived a young wife named Chao Lin. She was capable and hardworking, but with one flaw: a sharp tongue and a deep-seated disbelief in the supernatural. She often said, "Fox spirits, weasel spirits, they're just thieving animals. They should be beaten on sight." One afternoon, her husband was making a rare trip home from town, so she prepared a special pot of fragrant egg noodles. Just as she was lifting the noodles into a bowl, ready to add the meat sauce, she caught a flash of yellow from the corner of her eye. A weasel was crouched on her stove, its small, beady eyes fixed on the noodles in her bowl. Chao Lian's temper flared instantly. "You thieving pest! My husband barely gets to eat this, and you think you can have a taste?" Without a second thought, she grabbed a ladle of boiling water from the stove and hurled it at the weasel. A shriek so shrill it barely sounded animal tore through the kitchen. The weasel was hit directly. Sizzling and smoking, it dragged its scalded leg as it struggled to escape. When her husband heard what happened, his face went pale. He told her she had caused a great disaster. But Chao Lian slammed the bowl of noodles on the table, defiant. "What disaster? It's just an animal. It deserved to be burned. Let's see if it dares to come back." She thought that was the end of it. 3 nights later, something strange happened. Chao Lian's husband was woken by an odd sound. It wasn't crying or laughing. It was a scuttling sound. The sound of fingernails scratching against the wooden bed frame. He opened his eyes and his blood ran cold. His wife, Chao Lin, was on the floor, crawling on all fours like an animal. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and she was mimicking the chirps of a weasel. "Chao Lin, are you insane?" he shouted. The thing that was Chao Lin slowly turned its head. A chilling smile spread across its face, and it spoke in a completely alien, high-pitched voice. "I am not Chao Lin. My skin, it hurts. You burned me with boiling water. It hurts so much." From that day on, Chao Lin was completely mad. During the day, she was quiet, but every night she would become possessed, acting like a weasel, even eating raw meat. Doctors could find nothing wrong with her. Finally, in their desperation, the family brought in a famous xian, a shaman who can communicate with the spirit world. When the old woman arrived, she didn't even look at Xiaolin. Instead, she set up an altar in the courtyard with 3 bowls of clear water. She lit a piece of yellow paper, murmuring words under her breath. Suddenly, her body shuddered, her eyes grew sharp, and she spoke, but in the voice of an old man. "Brother of the yellow family, where you can forgive, you should. She is but a mortal woman who knew no better. Why must you seek to destroy her?" Inside the house, Xiaolin let out a piercing laugh. "Forgive her? She ruined my cultivation with boiling water, destroying decades of my work. Today, either she dies or I do." What followed was a negotiation that no mortal could understand. The spirit speaking through the shaman and the weasel spirit possessing Xiaolin engaged in a battle of wills. Finally, after the shaman promised that the family would erect a shrine and worship the weasel for 3 years to help it heal, the vengeful spirit relented. With a long, weary sigh, Xiaolin's body went limp, and she fainted. When she awoke, she was back to normal, with no memory of the events of the past few days. Now you know the 2 fundamental laws of the Huangshen: gratitude and vengeance. One is born from respect, the other from disrespect. But there is a third and most crucial law. It stands above the other 2, and it is the origin point of all these stories. It is the fatal question from the beginning of our journey, the asking for enfeildment. For an animal to become an immortal, it is not enough to simply absorb the essence of the sun and moon. At the final critical step, it must receive a personal enfeildment from the spirit of all creation, a human. And so, it will stop a traveler on the road and ask that fateful question: do I look like a man or a god? The question is a trap. If you answer, "You look like a man," or worse, "You look like a weasel," its centuries of spiritual practice will be instantly destroyed. The resulting resentment is powerful enough to curse you for the rest of your life. So, what is the correct answer? You look like a god. But it's not enough to just say the words. You must answer with genuine respect in your heart. You say, "I see in you the grace of an immortal, a grand presence. You are clearly a great deity about to achieve full enlightenment." Your words become the final ladder to its ascension. Once it succeeds, it will be eternally grateful to you. And that gratitude is often repaid in the form of gold or a lifetime of good fortune. So you see, the asking for enfeildment is a test of fates for both of you. It is a test of the weasel's centuries of dedication, and it is a test of your own character in a moment of fear. Do you choose kindness and respect, or do you choose contempt and hostility? This is the ultimate law behind all the stories of the Huangshen. Of course, today we can use modern medicine to explain spiritual possession and psychology to analyze the collective unconscious behind these legends. The story of the Weasel Immortal lives on mostly as a cultural symbol in our novels, our films, and our games. But this ancient legend still poses a profound question to us today. How should we live in this world? The story of the Huangshen is telling us in its own dramatic way that your every small act of kindness may plant a seed of fortune in places you cannot see. And your every thoughtless act of malice may trigger a disaster when you least expect it. It reminds us to maintain a sense of humility and reverence for the world, because in this seemingly ordinary reality, there may truly exist unseen neighbors living by an ancient pact. So now, put yourself back in that scene. Late at night, on a deserted road, it is standing before you, awaiting your answer. Do I look like a man or a god? What would you say? Leave your answer in the comments. If you enjoy exploring these mysterious cultures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you in the next story.